Good morning, students. Welcome back to the penultimate video of the agreement series on the SAT. Today, we are going to cover portions number 2, 3, and 4, which is verb tense agreement, verb form agreement, and adjectives versus adverbs. Needless to say, probably this one is the most important because SAT asks you many questions based on these. About 9 to 10 questions are asked on the grammar, and out of this, you are sure to find 2 to 3 questions based on the verb tense agreements. So let's dive in. So verbs, we have already done the verbs and we have already done the tenses in the sections on the parts of speech. You can go and refer back if somehow or the other it skips out of your brain as to what they are. But then we are continuing with the agreement part as asked for on the SAT. Once I have my own car, I had driven to the movie theater. Obviously, this sentence is incorrect when it comes to the tense, because had driven doesn't suit the time the speaker wants to say in the first half of the sentence. So verbs are of doing or being, the stative verbs. Obviously, we understand that, right? We have already done that. So let's take an example. This is a typical SAT example on verb tense agreement. The project SCORE was the first communication satellite ever put into the Earth's orbit, and it will be launched on December 18th, 1958. So the first part of the sentence, the time, is in the past. Project SCORE was the first communication satellite ever put into the Earth's orbit. Okay, obviously 1958 is in the past. That is definitely for sure. It will be launched does not suit our cause because this talks something which is futuristic, right? Which is in the future. So it doesn't suit our cause. So hence this needs to be changed. So it will be launched is definitely not the right answer. It was launched could be a possible answer. They were launched does not meet the criteria of the number because it was only one satellite, not many. So this is incorrect. And it is launched is again in the present. So we are looking at something in the past. It was launched should be the correct answer. So these are verb tense agreements. This is a very simple example. We will have examples which are more complicated once we go on to the example sections. This is the theory part. Once we start solving examples on the SAT, we will have more complicated ones. So the next agreement that we are looking at is the verb form agreement. Verb form is similar to the verb tense, but the verb form mistake is different for some two reasons. Number one, there are two forms of the verb. We understand that there are two forms. You can use the infinitive form, that is to plus verb, or you can use the gerund form, which is the verb plus ing. This we have already done once when we have dealt with the verb section. So let's delve into some mistakes so probably wants us to solve. So let's take an example. Please let me go to shopping. Now this is obviously incorrect because this cannot be an infinitive form of shopping, right? Because let me go to the infinitive form, this has to be a place. This has got to be a place when we use the infinitive form of go. So please let me go to the mall for shopping. So yeah, this is the correct one. This has got to be a place. So let me go to the school, let me go to XYZ will be okay. So let's do some common mistakes. One of the most common mistake is with the use of the infinitive used to. Used to shows a former fact, a habit, or an action or acclimatization. Like, Carl used to work out every morning, but he has been too busy to keep up with it. Horseback riding was frightening to me at first, but now I am used to it. This shows a former fact, habit, or acclimatization. So the mistake on the SAT is that owing to the concision part of SAT, that is the wordiness and the shortening of sentences, we should avoid using used to in place of the past tense of the SAT. So I used to wear black shoes is equal to I wore black shoes. So we can use I wore black shoes. That is considered to be the correct sentence. So this is a question from the SAT. A typical example of a verb form agreement. On September 18, 2006, American astronomers detected a supernova, the explosion of a massive star, in the constellation Perseus, 240 million light years from Earth. The powerful blast dash from the collapse of the star's core under the force of its own gravity ejected particles at speeds of thousands of miles per second. Great. So by looking at the date, September 18th, 2006, right? Looking at the date, September 18th, 2006, we can find that this definitely is in the past. That is for sure, that whatever we are talking about is in the past. Now, as we can see that there are forms of resulted. By initial inspection of the options, we can rule out C, which is had resulted, which is tautology, wherein the auxiliary verb and the main verb have got the same tense. So definitely this is not the answer. So there is a tense mistake out here. Resulted could be an option, yes. Resulting could also be an option, and results cannot be an option because this is not in the correct tense. So we are left with option choices either B or D. Now let's analyze the question. What happened? The powerful blast resulting or resulted from the collapse of the star's core under the force of its own gravity ejected. Okay, great. So out here, what is happening? The main verb out here. So the powerful blast actually ejected particles at the speeds of thousands of. So the main verb out here is ejected, right? Which is already in the past, as you can see, right? So we rule out the second verb, which is in the past, which is resulted. And hence, out here, the option will be B, or resulting. Adjectives and adverbs. Obviously, we understand that adjectives, now that we have completed the parts of the speech, that adjectives would pertain to nouns and adverbs would pertain to verbs. In all probabilities, adjectives plus ly generally turn out to be adverbs. This is a rule of thumb that we have to remember, that adjectives plus an ly turn out to be adverbs. So let's look at some of the common ones used to describe nouns. Of course, modify nouns, adjectives, nouns or pronouns. Adjectives are blue, fast, so blue cake, fast, car, small, something, important, complete. We can use adverbs which generally have this ly at the end of it all, right? So these are generally adverbs. So we are not expected. So when we are expected to use an adjectives, we shouldn't end up using adverbs. That is the whole point. Adjectives play only with one type of words, that is nouns or pronouns. On the other hand, adverbs can play with verbs, adjectives, adverbs, but never with nouns. So adverbs never with nouns, never with nouns. That is the one that we have to remember. Generally, adverbs playing with adjectives and adverbs themselves, two adverbs parallelly placed, very difficult, few and far between. For the purpose of SAT, we are not looking at this. Generally, they will play with verbs but never with nouns. And similarly, adjectives will play with nouns, never with verbs. So let's take an example, a SAT example. Christiana Wahlberg can handle a foil quite deft. In fact, she has competed in Olympic fencing. Okay, so obviously we can understand that there's a problem out here, that she can handle a foil, which is the sword, quite deft. Okay, so we are talking about deft, and we are talking about something which is handling. So handle you can understand is a verb, and deft you can understand is an adjective. So this don't go together. This is not, this don't go together. So the correct one has to be an adverb, which is deftly. So can handle a foil quite deft is definitely incorrect. Can deft handle a foil is definitely incorrect. Can handle a foil quite deftly is the correct one. And being a deft foil handler is again incorrect. So the correct answer for this one is C. The adjectives and adverbs. Let's take some examples on this. An ocean mammal, such as a blue whale, behaves quite differently than mammals that live on land. So you can pause the video and try and see that we are looking at behaves and we are looking at differently, whether it is correct or incorrect. And hence the answer is correct, because obviously you can understand that behaves is a verb and differently is an adverb. So a verb goes with an adverb, and this answer is correct. An ocean mammal behaving quite differently than other mammals that live on land don't come to the land to bear young ones. Okay, now this one again, we have got a pair of behaving and differently. Now in this one, as you can see, that behaving quite differently, behaving. Now in this one it is a gerund, in this one it is a gerund, behave plus ing becomes a noun, and hence behaving quite different. This is not differently because it is a noun, so different is the adjective, and hence in this one the correct answer should be behaving quite different, which is C, right? So that is the demarcation between the pairing of an adverb and an adjective with nouns and with verbs and nouns respectively. Stay tuned for the next section on agreements, in which we are going to finish off the pronoun antecedent clarity and the agreement of pronouns.